Hello, everybody. We are on day 47 today, which is Leviticus 11 through 13. And I'm learning that Leviticus is basically laws, rules that God has put in place that He delivers to Moses and tells Moses to tell the people, or tell Aaron, or tell the Israelites. And it kind of continues that way for all of the chapters that we've read so far. So in chapter 11, God tells them which animals they can eat. Basically, He says that the animals that they can eat has to have uh what do you call it? Divided hoof, and they have to eat cud. And He's requiring that they have both. So, like, say for instance, if they have a divided hoof, but they don't eat cud like the pig, it has a divided hoof, but it doesn't eat cud, then they can't eat that. That's considered unclean. They can't eat camel, they can't eat rabbit, because rabbit eats cud, but it doesn't have the divided hoof. Um, then he goes into what type of water creatures that they could eat, which is basically fish or things with scales and fins. So, like, no eel, no crabs, no crab legs, lobster, oysters. I was like, wow, I eat a lot of stuff that I'm probably not supposed to. Which is why, again, I'm always happy that we are, under grace and mercy, because it just had to have been hard, to live back then. And I can't even imagine not having bacon. I mean, they try to do turkey bacon. It's just not the same, in my opinion. Anyway, they also goes. God also tells them what birds they can't eat, which is a lot of birds that they can't eat. But all of the birds that He listed that they can't eat, I wouldn't have interest in eating anyway. And one of the birds, particularly, being a bat. I'm not trying to eat a bat. Like, I was like, okay, this is okay. He then goes into what they can eat about the bugs, like what bugs they can eat. And he lists that they could eat grasshoppers and crickets. And then when he said the grasshoppers part, I kind of thought back to when I was supposed to try to study abroad in Australia. They were saying that crickets were a delicacy there, and they will often eat it, covered in chocolate. I don't know how true that is. I didn't go to Australia, but that was one of the presentations that's stuck in my mind. I guess you could call it a core memory from the presentation, was those people were eating chocolate covered grasshoppers is a delicacy. So I've never had a desire to eat insects or bugs. But as kids, my cousins didn't like okra, and we were pretending that they were like sloth or slugs or snails, and I'll be tearing them jokers up. I used to be eating everybody okra. Like, just give it to me, I'll eat it. I ain't care. It tastes good to me. But we would pretend we were on Fear Factor, and I had to eat like snails and slugs and stuff. And they were like, just let's just give them to her so she can eat them all. It was, a good core memory. Then after that, we move on to chapter 12, which talks about women and childbirth and how they're unclean afterwards. So if she has a son, she is unclean um, for 7 days after childbirth. And the unclean is just like during her period. And then on the 8th day, the son has to get circumcised. And then it says that it will take 33 days to be purified from bleeding. And if she has a daughter, it takes 2 weeks unclean and 66 days to be purified from bleeding. After the purification, she has to give like 2 different types of sacrifice. But I'm trying to figure out why it take double the time for a daughter. And I also don't remember bleeding for 2 months after I had my kids. So again, I thank God We are on the grace and mercy because 2 months of bleeding, that is crazy. 66 days solid. Mm-mm. Okay, anyway, then we go into chapter 13, and it goes into about different types of rashes and how to decipher whether people are clean and unclean, and how that job is basically given to the priest. So in my head, the priest got to be sanctified and set aside for God's calling, but also got to be some sort of physician and doctor, you know? So I'm like, wow, this is a lot on the priest. And then at one point, when it was talking about like sores in the head or something, they were saying that they would say unclean, unclean, and then they would have to be put into isolation. So there has to be some sort of humiliating factor into that. Like, it's bad enough I got this rash. Now everybody got to know I got this rash, and people are taunting me, calling me unclean too. Like, wow. But yeah, that's a lot on a priest. And then in my head, it didn't say this, but the priest is probably also the one performing the circumcision. So basically, the priest is serving two roles of doctor, operator, rash analyzer, close to God person. Like, those are a lot of roles to play, but they holding it down. It was a good read today. Yeah. So until next time, I'll see you next time.